Emotional intelligence is essential to your success in the professional world, regardless of your occupation. In fact, researchers have found that 90% of top performers have high emotional intelligence. As a result, organizations are looking to hire people with high emotional intelligence. So how can you, during the job interview process, indicate that you have high emotional intelligence? Hey, I'm Abby, and welcome back to the Life Work Balance YouTube channel. Today, I want to talk to you about just that, how you can demonstrate that you have high emotional intelligence during the interview process. But before we jump into that, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button if you're looking forward to learning a little bit about emotional intelligence and how you can display it in the interview process. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life, work, balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. So before I jump into how you can demonstrate EQ or emotional intelligence in the interview process, I first want to go over what it is. So what is emotional intelligence? Well, essentially, emotional intelligence is your personal competence and your social competence. Personal competence is made up of your self-awareness and your self-management. Basically, this is being aware of your own emotions, recognizing and regulating your behavior based off of those emotions, and managing your emotions to adapt to different environments in an effective way. On the other hand, we have social competence. Social competence is made up of social awareness and relationship management. Essentially, this is your ability to recognize and tune into other people's emotions. You're able to pick up on their emotional cues and act accordingly based off of what you sense from them. It's your ability to create and maintain good relationships, communicate clearly and effectively, influence and inspire others, work well with others, and handle and manage conflict effectively. So if you get anything from this video, is that emotional intelligence is made up of those two things: personal competence and social competence. Emotional intelligence is also different from IQ or your cognitive intelligence. Typically, your IQ or your cognitive intelligence won't change much over time. However, you have a lot of control over your emotional intelligence, and it's completely in your hands with how emotionally intelligent you are or are not. And it all starts with your self-awareness. So, with that being said, if you're looking to maybe expand your knowledge on emotional intelligence or dive a little bit deeper into the topic, I have two resources that I would recommend for you. The first is this book. It's Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and it's by Travis Bradberry and Gene Greaves. It's a very easy to follow, straightforward book about emotional intelligence, and it even includes a free pre- and post-emotional intelligence assessment. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit deeper than that to really dive deep into your own emotional intelligence and to receive personal one-on-one coaching about your emotional intelligence, I am certified in the EQI 2.0, which is an emotional intelligence assessment. And so if you would like to work with me one-on-one about your specific emotional intelligence, please reach out to me using my contact information in the description box below. You will be able to take the assessment, and then we will be able to have some coaching sessions about what your emotional intelligence looks like right now, and we can talk about your growth areas to improve or heighten your emotional intelligence. If you're interested in purchasing this book, I went ahead and linked to it in the description box below. Even if you do decide to do the EQI 2.0 assessment with me, I also recommend getting this book. Okay, so clearly emotional intelligence is important, but how do you display your emotional intelligence during the interview process? Well, first off, self-awareness is key to your emotional intelligence. So demonstrating your self-awareness through your answers to very common interview questions is one way to demonstrate your overall emotional intelligence. You do not want to use vague or obviously templated answers to interview questions. The other thing you don't want to do is criticize others. You want to make sure that you take and show accountability for your actions. So those two things are red flags to interviewers. However, if you can demonstrate and show your emotions genuinely, that will typically show the interviewers that you tend to have a higher self-awareness and thus higher emotional intelligence. So how do you demonstrate your emotions in a genuine way during a job interview? This doesn't mean that you break down crying, telling a very personal story. What this does mean is your ability to demonstrate your passion and your excitement for the job that you are applying to. So you can do this through your answers to common interview questions like, tell me about yourself. Why do you want this job? Or why do you want to work here? You'll also want to make sure that you talk about your growth. When it comes to emotional intelligence, those who have high EQ have the ability to acknowledge their mistakes and shortcomings and grow from those mistakes and shortcomings. So, how are you actively working on improving yourself? Your answer to questions like, tell me about a time when you experienced failure, or any question where you are asked to describe your weaknesses, is a good opportunity to talk about your growth and your improvement. Ultimately, if your answers to interview questions demonstrate a reflective nature and a concern for and awareness of other humans and other people, that will typically indicate to the interviewers that you have high emotional intelligence. Another way to demonstrate your emotional intelligence during the interview process is to ask questions. Now, I have never been in an interview where I, as the interviewee, or I, as the interviewer, have not asked the question, do you have any questions for us? So that question is the perfect opportunity for you to ask the interviewers questions about the organization, questions about the culture of the organization, questions about their experience working with the organization. So not only is asking questions at the end of an interview just good practice for an interview overall, it also demonstrates your initiative, your drive, and your confidence. And it gives the interviewers the impression that you are also interviewing them for a job. It gives the interviewers the impression that you know what type of environment you work well in and will allow you to be the most effective and where you will be able to contribute the most. So ultimately, asking questions at the end of an interview, while it is good practice and just typical interview etiquette, it also gives you the opportunity to make sure that this position in this organization is a good fit for you. If you take a position that is not a good fit for you, you will quickly begin the job search process again, and that is not ideal. So you do want to make sure that you're finding a job that's a good fit for you, and being aware of the type of environment that's a good fit for you indicates high emotional intelligence. Another way to demonstrate your EQ during the interview process is to actively listen. What does this mean? Well, it means that you are listening to understand what the interviewer is asking you. You're not listening to respond. So do not start planning your response to a question before the interviewer is done asking you the question. Don't jump to conclusions about what you think they want to hear from you. Instead, give a thoughtful response that doesn't feel or sound rehearsed. You want to listen to what the interviewer is actually saying and what they're asking of you with this question. Do not rely on templated responses or canned responses. You want this to feel as smooth, conversational, and genuine as possible. And finally, be aware of your body language. Make eye contact with the interviewers. Whether you're in a virtual interview or an in-person interview, eye contact demonstrates that you're listening and you're understanding what the other person is saying. You also want to try your best to relax. I know interviews can be nerve-wracking. However, if you have your arms crossed or your legs crossed, it can come off to the interviewers that you are closed off. Instead, try to relax a little. And if you need to use a relaxation method, I actually recommend using a pressure point trigger on your hand. So while you're sitting in your interview, if you just take your hand and you press this kind of meaty part between your pointer finger and your thumb, that can help release some tension and help you relax a little bit. So if you find yourself nervous in any situation, you can just silently squeeze that part of your hand while your hands are in your lap, and that will hopefully help you center yourself and calm down a little bit. Ultimately, you want to be tuned into what your body language is saying about you. If you're talking about something uncomfortable, if you're talking about conflict or failures or a time you received difficult feedback, your body language will indicate to the interviewers how you're actually feeling, even if your words don't match that. And they will likely pick up on that. So you will want to make sure that your body language is consistent with what you're saying and how you are presenting it. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas about emotional intelligence in the workplace, or even emotional intelligence during the interview process, please throw them in the comments box below. I love receiving comments. I reply to every comment that comes through. So if you do leave me a comment, I will get back to you as quickly as I'm able. And if you haven't already, please remember to hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life-work balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. As I mentioned before, if you are interested in furthering your knowledge about emotional intelligence, please go ahead and consider buying this book off of Amazon. I've linked to it in the description box below. I highly recommend it. It is a great overview of emotional intelligence, and it even includes a pre and post assessment. An assessment that you take before you read the book and an assessment that you take after you've read the book. If you want a deeper dive into emotional intelligence, I am certified in an emotional intelligence assessment. It's the EQI 2.0. So if you're interested in that deeper dive into your own personal emotional intelligence, please go ahead and use my contact information in the description box below. I would be happy to send you a link to take the assessment, and then we can schedule some coaching conversations to help figure out what are your strong areas of emotional intelligence and where some of your growth areas might be. And with that, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week.